I am Luke, 38 years old and owner of a construction company based in Denver. 10 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. A beautiful wife named Amanda, 2 amazing sons, Jackson and Tyler, and a best friend, Daniel, who had been by my side since high school. We were the family. Others envied with our matching Christmas sweaters and annual beach vacations. But beneath that perfect surface, a betrayal was brewing that would tear apart everything I had built. When the truth finally emerged, my sons made a choice that broke me in ways I never thought possible. Before I continue this painful journey, tell me where you are watching from today. Hit that like and subscribe button if you ever had to make tough choices to protect your own mental health. I grew up in a blue-collar neighborhood in southeast Denver. My father worked at an auto plant, pulling double shifts to keep food on the table. My mother cleaned houses and took care of my younger brother and me. They taught me the value of hard work and integrity from an early age. Nothing was handed to us, and I learned to appreciate every opportunity that came my way. College seemed like a distant dream, but with scholarships and working nights at a local warehouse, I managed to enroll in business classes at the community college. That is where I met Amanda during my sophomore year. She was studying nursing with bright blue eyes and a laugh that made everyone around her smile. Our connection was instant. On our third date, we stayed up until sunrise, talking about our dreams and the future we hoped to build. When an opportunity arose to apprentice with a local contractor, I made the difficult decision to drop out of college. Amanda supported me, understanding that I was building toward our future. I worked tirelessly, learning every aspect of the construction business. By 25, I had saved enough to start my own small company, focusing on residential renovations. Amanda finished her nursing degree, and we moved into our first apartment together. A small, one-bedroom that felt like a palace to us because it was ours. We married in a simple ceremony at her parents' lake house. I promised to give her the world, and I meant it. Every job I took, every extra hour I worked, was to build the future we had dreamed about during those early morning conversations in college. I truly believed we were partners in every sense of the word. Jackson was born a year after we married. I still remember holding him for the first time, this tiny human that Amanda and I had created. The responsibility was overwhelming, but so was the love. Tyler came 2 years later, and our family felt complete. We moved into a modest house in a good school district, and I expanded the business to take on larger projects. The early years of fatherhood were exhausting but deeply fulfilling. Despite long hours at construction sites, I made